Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Aisah Amilia. I'm from Education of Office Administration, State University of Jakarta. In this video, I'm going to present about my thesis with the title The Effect of Self-Efficacy and School Environment on Student Interest in Continuing to Higher Education in Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School. Now, we come to Chapter 1, Preliminary. In Chapter 1, there is background, problem formulation, research objectives, and research benefits. First is background. School is a place for students to develop their education. Students who have completed their education will definitely continue to higher education. Including students who have graduated from high school, they will definitely confronted with several choices when they graduate. For example, continuing to their education to college, taking courses, looking for work, get married, and being unemployed. For making this decision, an interest from within students is needed. According to Slameto, interest is a sense of interest in a thing or activity without anyone telling. Interest is needed from within students to choose future plans. Their expected plans of graduate from high school is to continue their education to college. It is also mentioned in Government Regulation Number 19/2005, Article 26, Paragraph 3 about Standard National Education, mentioned that the objective school's medium general is for upgrade intelligence, knowledge, personality, moral glorious, and skills for life independent as well as follow education more carry on. Interest in continuing to higher education is something that is interesting to encourage them to want to do various kinds of business, including visit the desired college website, looking for information about majors and colleges, study harder to take the college entrance exams, and enthusiastic and ready to compete with other students. However, currently the interest of high school students to continue their education to college is getting less and less. This phenomenon was found in Cawang Baru Senior High School. Based on data from Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School graduates, it can be seen that in the 2018-2019 academic year, only 24.2% of students continued their education to college. In 2019-2020, there was a fairly large decline of 7.1%, with the percentage level of students continuing their education to higher education, which was 17.1%. Furthermore, in 2020-2021, students who continue to their education to higher education have an increase of 1.5%, with a total percentage of 18.6%. Then, the researcher conducted a pre-research on the respondents, that is grade 12 students, and the results showed that as many as 53.3% of students had no interest in continuing their education to college. The number of students who do not have this interest must be considered about the reason why they don't have this interest. Next, the researcher gave essay question. The first is the reason that encourage students to continue their education to college. From this question, several students answered to increase their knowledge, pursue their goals, there were no factors that encouraged them, parents' demand, in order to get a job, and expand relationship. Furthermore, the reasons that hinder students from continuing to their education to college are as many as 4 students feel they have no barriers, 9 students feel that the school environment is less supportive, 8 students are constrained by economic factors, and 9 students because of low self-efficacy. This low self-efficacy is in the form of students' insecurity to be able to complete lectures. Then, the last question is who can influence students to continue their education, namely as many as 19 students choose themselves, 15 students choose family, 2 students choose peers, then 16 students choose teachers and schoolmates. From several pre-research questions, 2 factors were mentioned by students, namely self-efficacy and school environment. The answer that the researcher got from the pre-research is in line with the opinion of William Stern, which states that a person is born with a good and bad traits. Congenital factors and environmental factors will affect the process of child development. Factors that come from outside include family environment, school environment, and community environment. The factors that come from within is self-efficacy. Based on the pre-research, the researchers are interested in research with the title The Effect of Self-Efficacy and School Environment on Student Interest in Continuing to Higher Education in Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School. Furthermore, the formulation of the problem in this research is there the effect of self-efficacy on student interest in continuing to higher education? Is there the effect of school environment on student interest in continuing to higher education? Is there the effect between self-efficacy and school environment on student interest in continuing to higher education? Next, the purpose of this research is knowing the effect of self-efficacy on the interest of students from Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School in continuing to higher education, knowing the effect of school environment on the interest of students from Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School to continuing to higher education, knowing the effect of self-efficacy and school environment on the interest of students from Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School in continuing to higher education. Next, further benefits in this research is, for researchers, is to increase knowledge about the problem students in senior high school associate with interest in continuing to higher education. For Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School is to become input positive for school formative students so that they own motivation and interest for continue to higher education. And for Faculty of Economy, State University of Jakarta, is to become reference for the library of the Faculty of Economics and the library of the State University of Jakarta. Now we will go to Chapter 2. Chapter 2 contains with theoretical review, study relevant, theoretical study, and frameworks theme. Theoretical review. The first is about self-efficacy. According to Bandura, self-efficacy is self-perception of how well one can function in certain situations. Next is the school environment. According to Muhibin, the school environment is the state of the school where you learn, which also affects the level of learning success. Furthermore, interest in continue to higher education. Interest in continue to higher education means something that is interest and encourage them to make various efforts to enter college. Next is relevant research. Relevant research is used as a benchmark for researchers to write and analyze a study. The following are some of the relevant research that the researcher uses as a reference in writing the research. Next is theoretical study. The independent variables in this study were self-efficacy and school environment, while the dependent variable was interest in continue to higher education. In this research, the researchers used several previous studies as a benchmark for researchers, and the result of each of these studies indicate that the independent variable has an effect on the dependent variable. The next part is the framework of thinking. The thinking framework is used to make it easier for researchers to find concepts regarding research problems that will be carried out in the field. From this framework, the following hypotheses can be drawn. Hypothesis 1. Self-efficacy affects students' interest in Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School in continue to higher education. Hypothesis 2. School environments affects students' interest in Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School in continue to higher education. And hypothesis 3. Self-efficacy and school environment affect students' interest in Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School in continue to higher education. Then we will go to Chapter 3, Research Methodology. Chapter 3 has subchapters including research methods and validity and reliability. Research methods. The first is research sites. This research was conducted at Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School, which is located at Cawang Baru Street, number 543, East Jakarta. Time of this research lasted for 7 months, that is from January to July. Next is the population and sample. The population in this study were all class students at SMA 1 Cawang Baru. Then the researcher used an affordable population, namely grade 12 students. Then the sample technique that the researchers used in this research was the saturated sampling technique. This research is a quantitative research. Data collection in this study used a questionnaire method where data were collected directly from respondents through filling out surveys. The measurement scale used in this questionnaire is the Likert scale. Measurement of data for each variable is done by giving a score to each answer from the statements in items in the questionnaire. Next is the validity and reliability test for the variable of interest in continue to higher education. For the questionnaire on this variable, the researcher gave 12 statements from the 3 indicators. Each indicator has one negative question. Of the 12 statements after being tested for validity, there was one item that dropped because it didn't meet the criteria for Airtable. That is 0. The reliability of this variable is 0.646, where the number is high in the Cronbach alpha value, so that the variable continue to education to college is declared reliable. For the questionnaire on the self-efficacy variable, the researcher gave 15 statements from the 3 indicators. Each indicator has one negative question. Of the 15 statements, after being tested for validity, there was one item that dropped because it didn't meet the criteria of Airtable, that is 0. The reliability test of this variable was 0.679, where the number was high in the Cronbach alpha value, so that the self-efficacy variable was declared reliable. For the questionnaire on the school environment variable, the researcher gave 13 statements from the 3 indicators. The first and second indicators have 2 negative statements, while the third indicator has no negative statements. Of the 13 statements after being tested for validity, there was one that dropped because it didn't meet the criteria for Airtable. The reliability of this variable is 0.657, where the number is high in the Cronbach alpha value, so that school environment variable is declared reliable. Now we go to Chapter 4. Respondent profile. The sample in this study was grade 12 students with a total of 73 students. The sample consisted of 28 female students and 45 male students, and 31 students from the Mathematics and Natural Science department, and 43 students from the Social Science department. Next is the description of the variable data of interest in continue to higher education. From this study, it was obtained as many as 73 students with missing data of 0. minimum or lowest value of 27 and maximum or highest value of 47. Range or difference from the highest value and lowest value of 20. The mean of average score of 37.26. For the frequency distribution table, there are 7 classes obtained from the class equals 1 plus 3.3 log n. So 1 plus 3.3 multiplied log 73 is 7.148, rounded up to 7. The smallest value of this variable is 27 and the largest value is 47. So the range in the class is 47 minus 20 is 27 is 20. The class interval on this variable is 3, which is obtained from the range divided by many classes. 20 is divided by 3, which is 2.85, rounded up to 3. From this calculation, the following data were obtained. This is. Next is histogram graph. It can be seen that the highest frequency of variable interest in continue to higher education is in 36 to 38 class interval with a relative frequency of 31%, while the lowest frequency of the interest in continue to higher education variable is in 27 to 29 class interval with a relative frequency of 3%. Next, the descriptive analysis of the calculate average data for the variable interest in continue to higher education based on the indicator as follow, like this. Based on the average score of the indicator variable interest in continue to higher education in the table above, it can be seen that the interest in continued education to college is most influenced by the desired indicator with a percentage of 37.7%, followed by motivation or encouragement indicators. It can be concluded that desire and motivation are factors that encourage students of Cawang Baru 1 Senior High School to continue their education to higher education. Based on the result of self-efficacy data processing, obtained descriptive data as above. It can be seen in the study that there were n or the number of respondents as many as 73 students with missing data of 0, minimum or lowest value of 37 and maximum or highest value is 64. Range or difference from the highest value and the lowest value of 27. Mean or the average score is 50.07. For the frequency distribution table, there are 7 classes obtained from class equals 1 plus 3.3 log n. So 1 plus 3.3 multiplied log 73 is 7.148, rounded up to 7. The smallest value of this variable is 37 and the largest value is 64. So, the range in this class is 64 minus 37 equals 27. The class interval on this variable is 4, which is obtained from the range divided by many classes. 27 is divided by 3, which is 3.87, round up to 4. From this calculation, the following data were obtained like this. Furthermore, from the histogram graph, it can be seen that the highest frequency of the self-efficacy variable is in the 49 to 52 class interval with a relative frequency of 30%, while the lowest frequency of the self-efficacy variables is in the 61 to 64 class interval with a relative frequency of 3%. Next, the descriptive analysis of the average data for the self-efficacy variable based on the indicator is as follows, like this. Based on the average self-efficacy score in the table above, it can be seen that the self-efficacy variable is most influenced by the strength indicator with a percentage of 33.6%, then followed by the generality indicator with a percentage of 33.4%. It can be concluded that the ability of students to face obstacles as well as students' beliefs and optimistic attitudes are factors that affect the student self-efficacy of Cawang Baruan Senior High School to continue to higher education. Based on the result of the school environment data processing obtained descriptive data as above, it can be seen in this study that there were n or the number of respondents as many as 73, students with missing or missing data of 0, minimum or lowest value of 38 and maximum or highest value of 58. Range or difference from the highest value and the lowest value of 20. For the frequency distribution table, there are two classes obtained from class equals 1 plus 3.3 log n. So 1 plus 3.3 multiplied log 73 is 7.148 rounded up to 7. The smallest value of this variable is 38 and the largest value is 58. So, the range in this class is 58 minus 38 equals 20. The class interval on this variable is 4, which is obtained from the range divided by many classes, 20 divided 7, which is 2.85 rounded up to 3. From this calculation, the following data were obtained like this. Next, furthermore, from the histogram graph, it can be seen that the highest frequency of school environment variable is in the 47 to 49 class interval with a relative frequency of 33%, while the lowest frequency of the school environment variable is in the 38 to 40 class interval with a relative frequency of 4%. Furthermore, the descriptive analysis of the average data calculated for the school environment variable based on data indicator is as follows, like this. Based on data average school of the school environment variable indicator in the table above, it can be seen that the school environment is most influenced by indicator of learning facilities in school with a percentage of 35.91%, followed by indicator of relation between students with a percentage of 32.96%. It can be concluded that learning facilities in school and relationships between students are factors that can influence the interest of Cawang Baru Satu High School students to continue to higher education. Next goes to the requirement analysis test. The first is normality test. From the Kolmogorov-Smirnov normality test, data obtained that the significance of self-efficacy, school environment, and interest to continue to higher education is 0.200. The value of 0.200 is greater than 0.05. So, it can be stated that the data of the three variables are normally distributed. The calculation of the normality test can also be seen through the normal probability plot. The data follows the diagonal line and slightly spreads around the diagonal line. In other words, it can be said that the data are normally distributed and the regression model has met the assumption of normality. Next is linearity test. linearity x2 to y value is 0.000, where the number is smaller than 0.05, and the deviation from linearity value is 0.296 greater than 0.05. That is, can be concluded that the self-efficacy variable of interest in continuing to higher education has a linear relationship. Then, the linearity x2 to y value is 0.000, where the number is smaller than 0.05, and the deviation from linearity value is 0.624, is greater than 0.05. That is, can be concluded that the school environment variable of interest in continue to higher education has a linear relationship. Next is classical assumption test. First, there is the multicollinearity test. It can be seen that the tolerance value of the self-efficacy and school environment variable is 0.743, where the number is greater than 0.1, and the VIF value is 1.363, which is smaller than 10. So, it can be concluded that there are no symptoms of multicollinearity in this regression model of this study. So, that the regression model has fulfilled the classic multicollinearity assumption test. Then, there is heteroscedasticity test. It can be seen that the significance value of self-efficacy is 0.777 is greater than 0.05. The significance value of the school environment is 0.915 is greater than 0.05. So, it can be concluded that the regression models in this study does not occur heteroscedasticity symptoms. The researchers also conducted a heteroscedasticity test by conducting a scatter plot test. Based on the scatter plot test, output image above, it can be seen that the points spread above 1 below the number 0 on the y-axis and do not form a certain pattern. So, it can be said that there is no symptoms of heteroscedasticity in these regression models. So, that the regression model has fulfilled the classical assumption of heteroscedasticity. Next is the multiple regression equation. It can be seen from the regression equation above that the constant value of 3.45415 means that the self-efficacy variable and school environment for students is 0. Then, the value of interest in continue to higher education is 0.415. X1 coefficient is positive, meaning that there is a positive influence between self-efficacy and interest in continue to higher education. This shows that the higher the self-efficacy, the higher the interest of students to continue to higher education. The X2 coefficient is positive, meaning that there is a positive influence between the school environment and the interest in continue to higher education. This shows that the better the school environment, the higher the interest of students to continue to higher education. Next is hypothesis test. From the table, it can be seen that F count value is 37.971. The value of the F table can be found in the statistical table at a significance level of 0.05. The F1 number of variables mean 1 or 3 mean 1 equals 2, and the F2 equals n mean k mean 1. N is the number of data and the k is number is the number of independent variables, or 73 min 2 minus 1 equals 70. The F table value is 3.13. Based on data above, the calculate F value is 93.9971, which concluded that there was a relationship between self-efficacy and school environment with interest in continue to higher education. This is based on the F count grader F table, which is 37.971 is greater than 3.13. Next is the t-test. Obtain t-table of 1.99444. It can be seen that the t count of self-efficacy is 5.386, which is greater than 1.99444, which means that the hypothesis is accepted. So, it can be concluded that self-efficacy has a positive and significant influence on the interest in continuing to higher education. The T count of the school environment is 3.088, which is greater than 1.99344, which means the hypothesis is accepted. So, it can be concluded that the school environment has a positive and significant influence on the interest in continuing to higher education. Next is the coefficient of determination. Based on the table, it can be seen that R square is 0.520. To determine the coefficient of determination, the formula is KD equals R square multiplied 100%. That is 0.520 multiplied 100% equals 52%. It can be concluded that self-efficacy and school environment explain simultaneously by 52%, while the remaining 48% is influenced by other factors not examined by researchers. Okay everyone, thank you for watching my presentation video. Sorry if there are still many mistakes. Hopefully I will be better in the future. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you on top!